Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. I wanted to talk. First of all, I wanted to wish everybody a happy Father's Day. All the dads out there, you know, single dads, married, even the ones in heaven, and even some of the stepdads. Because even though people might not be blood related, they still fill in that capacity. As they say, stepdads step up when biological fathers won't. And secondly, I wanted to review a movie that I just saw. No, I just finished seeing just now. I watched it a second time um, with Kevin Hart um, on Netflix. It's called Fatherhood, and this movie is really good. It's something different for Kevin because he doesn't usually he's a comedian, so he's out of his comfort zone in this. But this is the kind of film that is both funny and heartbreaking. Without giving away all of the story, because I would want you guys to watch it, I will say it, it is the kind of film that is very heartwarming. He's had a was that one other like this with him and Bryan Cranston, where he played Bryan Cranston's aide, and Bryan Cranston was a paralyzed man. But one thing I could really see with Kevin is that he's going out of his range to do something different, and he may one day leave comedy behind altogether. It kind of reminds me of Robin Williams. Robin Williams, what made Robin Williams such a brilliant performer was he could do drama as well as comedy. Comedy was his forte, but he could also do drama. A lot of comedians cannot do um, they cannot do drama. Drama for them doesn't bode well. And when they go back to comedy, and people won't always accept them. For example, Monique. Monique, funny of course, did the Parker sitcom, but when she did Precious, she tried to go back to comedy. It just wasn't working, and now she's a troll on that. She's a troll on social media, and all she does now is stir up controversy by dissing Lee Daniels and dissing Tyler Perry and dissing Oprah. But for Kevin Hart, like you could really see his range. Of course, I think he will stick primarily to comedy, but it's nice to see a movie about him that is not necessarily centered on him being short, because for the longest that was his shtick. He's short, and most of his jokes were about being short. But in this one, along with Melanie Hurd, who was the little girl in this. She's also in Them, in another Netflix series. Them. Uh, they play a typical father and daughter type movie that you see. Often you see it in a lot of Disney movies. Disney is known for this, where the mother, well, spoiler alert, the mother passes away, and Kevin Hart and Little Rel the rapper, also from Bird Box, and his other friend Anthony Kerrigan are left to take care of the little girl. So this kind of has vibes of not only um, Curly Sue, but also has other types of vibes like Three Men and a Baby. It kind of reminded me of parts of it reminded me of Big. parts of it. Reminded me of a lot of different Father's Day, fatherhood type movies. Even Mrs. Doubtfire, which again, Robin Williams. And it got me to thinking that um, a lot of Hollywood is centered on fatherhood. You know what I mean? Like, one of the observations I made on Mother's Day was there's really no songs about dads. There's only one, Dance with My Father by Luther Vandross. But when it comes to TV and movies, fatherhood is front and center beyond motherhood. You often see fathers, especially when the wife has died, like in Who's the Boss, like in this one, like in, well, Curly Sue, she was an orphan. Um, Full House is another example, One on One, where that was divorce, but that wasn't death. But you often see this kind of dynamic Big Daddy with Adam Sandler, these kind of dynamic, really relationships between fathers and sons, and fathers and daughters, and fathers, and their children. And the fathers really come out in a lot of these movies really smelling more like roses. I Am Sam is similar to this. I Am Sam, another movie that kind of reminds me of this one. Um, they're all kind of similar in the sense that they all, make the father look really good. Whereas juxtaposed to mothers in movies, you got Mommy Dearest, you got Home Alone, where she leaves. The mother is responsible for leaving the kid, by himself. You got a lot of abusive mothers in movies like in Precious. Well, there the father was abusive too, but you don't really see him. It's more centered on the mother abuse. So it's not to drag mothers through the mud. I guess um, television and movies have more of a lock on, you know, exceptional portrayals of fathers, whereas music has a lock on exceptional portrayals of mothers. But one of the things that's different about this is that it it at first he doesn't really know what to do. Sydney to the Max, exactly. Lisa is another one. So there are plenty of shows and movies where, like happens in this, the father doesn't know what to do at first. He doesn't even know how to change a diaper. He doesn't even know how to put her to bed, put her to sleep, and he grows up with her as she matures. He matures, and he begins to realize what is his purpose in life. And even though this is based on a book, Two Kisses for Maddie, I feel like this um is a cute movie, and you'll see why they have two kisses. And it's really like it's really a father daughter type bond film. So if you are a father of a little girl, hashtag girl dad, you know, you will appreciate this film. And one of the things that I liked about this too was I talked in the beginning of the video about step parents, and in this one, the one who plays the stepmom, she is DeWanda Wise. She plays the stepmom in the movie. Kevin Hart's love interest, that after his wife has unfortunately passed away, she becomes involved with him, and she's not like a lot of times in some of these type of movies. Stepmothers will be the evil one that will try to get in between the father and the daughter. Exactly. Yeah, I am a girl dad too. So that's why I said I appreciate this film. So you're absolutely right. So, um, you'll see a lot of times the stepmom will get uh you know in between the relationship between the dad and the girl, but not in this one. But yeah, Lisa's absolutely right. I myself am a girl dad, and if you are a girl dad, you'll appreciate this type of film more so, you know, than if you have sons. You know what I mean? But you know, because I feel, as a girl dad, like Lisa was saying, that the 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 bond between a father and his daughter is different than the bond between father and son, or the bond between father and mother and son. So yeah, and without shedding light on really my personal life, being a hashtag girl dad is one of the most special things in the world because you don't you don't think that you're going to have anything really related when you're a guy growing up. You don't really think you're going to have anything really relating to a female child. But like Dwayne the Rock Johnson has said in other interviews, he said every man wants a son until he gets till he finally realizes that he needs a daughter. Because as a man, when you do have a daughter, it gives you a different perspective on how to treat women and how to understand women's psychology. So, and that's one of the things this really touches on. And a lot of this, like, is so reminiscent of something that I myself, my personal life, really went through early on in the 2000s. You know, where when you're a lot younger, you don't, as a man, really realize how to really care for a child, especially a girl, and being a single parent is very a difficult thing, you know, and it's a unique perspective when it's the opposite gender because a man has never really been a man has never been a girl. He doesn't really know much of anything about how to raise a girl, but in this film and often in real life and a lot of these TV shows centered on fathers and daughters, the father and the daughter grow together. They learn together from each other, and that's really where the source of comedy comes from in this movie, and the source of sweetness comes from is that Kevin Hart and see with Kevin Hart being so not to harp on his shtick that I said was kind of lame in the beginning, but him being such the size of the man that he is, it kind of he's kind of like a kid in a way. You know what I mean? So playing off that, um, it adds for a lot of laughs. And Alfred Woodard is also in this, and I say Alfred Woodard is one of the. I was telling my mom that I think she is one of the treasures of Hollywood, in the sense that if you want to get someone who has kind of a mean streak in a way, but a motherly kind of mean streak, it is this one. And I'm not going to give away what is the conflict between herself and Kevin Hart, but it really centers on something I can personally relate to in my life, to where the maternal grandparents don't really think that Kevin, as a man, as a single man, is capable of taking care of this girl. And the society doesn't really think that either, because you'll see throughout the film, people will ask him, where's the mom? Where is she? And he will say that she is here, she is there, like she, uh, that she's in prison, she's here, she's there. Because at the same time that he is learning to raise the daughter and he is becoming more of a responsible adult, he is also um, he's also coping with the tragedy. And Alfred Woodard playing kind of a villain in this. You know what I'm saying? Because she has that motherly tone, but at the same time she's kind of like Loretta Devine. Loretta Devine is similar. That when they play good guy characters or characters that you root for, protagonists, they're really good, but they have that sense that they can kind of come off as kind of mean in their expressions if they play a more antagonistic role. And I love her too, Lisa. And she plays this kind of role. She plays the maternal grandmother of the little girl, Maddie, and she doesn't really think that Kevin is capable of taking care of her, and she's very intrusive, and she feels like she would be better to take care of the girl. But see, with Kevin, it gave me Mrs. Doubtfire vibes too, because this movie, because with Kevin, like I said, he's kind of the new Robin Williams, because Robin Williams was able to capture that childlike innocence in his comedy, but also a sense of seriousness. So even when he was being serious, he was also being funny. And I think Kevin Hart in this movie, like in the one with Bryan Cranston, is the same way. Like, he's funny, but he is also endearing. Just like Robin Williams in Mrs. Doubtfire, he was funny and he was also endearing. And there's also a link to, you got to watch the end credits, to something that the character in Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin Williams' character in Mrs. Doubtfire, and Kevin Hart's character in this does. You know, but both those films are really showing people the lengths to what a father will go through a lot of times. Yeah, you're right, Lisa. Holiday Heart is kind of like a Father's Day movie. So is AJ and the Queen, the new RuPaul movie. Getting off topic completely, but it's another Netflix movie with RuPaul and this kid, and that was kind of a unique Father's Day moment. I mean, type movie, because let's keep in mind it's not only Father's Day, but it is Pride Month, and there are different kinds of fathers too. There are trans fathers, and there are LGBT fathers too. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we're not only dealing with heterosexual fathers. There are many LGBT fathers, many trans fathers as well. And the Holiday was not the father of the girl that was Alfred Woodard's daughter. He was the father figure to this girl. Same thing with the new RuPaul movie. So, and that is an interesting perspective that I think Hollywood has shied away from. Trans fathers or LGBT um, gay fathers. It hasn't really touched on that, mostly because I think the taboo around LGBT parentage. But Holiday Heart is one of those movies that does touch on it, and this one doesn't. This one doesn't really touch on fatherhood. Kevin Hart doesn't touch on that pretty much at all, but it does touch on not necessarily LGBT issues, but there is a scene where the girl is going to Catholic school and she doesn't want to wear she doesn't want to wear pants. I mean, she doesn't want to wear a dress. She wants to wear pants. So the Catholic school, of course, is gender conforming. They say, "Oh no, she has to wear a dress," but she is so used to dressing, not dressing, but acting like her dad that she doesn't want. She wants to be herself, individuality. And Kevin Hart tells her in the movie, you know, rules. I don't go by the rules. I do my own thing because he encouraged her individuality in it. Whereas these Catholic school nuns, they're trying to quash her individuality or the other kids. They say that she is tomboyish or she she dresses like a boy or she acts too much like a boy. And a lot of times with girls raised by single fathers, that's what happens because fathers men, heterosexual men can only really be, you know, masculine, so they can't really give off that feminine energy. So although this movie doesn't really touch on any LGBT issues explicitly, like the one that Lisa's talking about with Ving Rhames, where that's a trans father, it kind of does touch on it, and it kind of coalesces too with Juneteenth that we spoke about yesterday, because one of the things that I had to block somebody from my page, and I'm not going to name this person, for that commented, that not commented, but um, joked about on the Juneteenth, in the Juneteenth comment section, was that okay? Why was Juneteenth the day before Father's Day when quote unquote it's notorious in this racist person's mind that black fathers are absentee fathers. So this film is showing you that black fathers can be just as much present in their children's life as other races of fathers. I had to remove that person's remarks, and I didn't even publish, when they made it, and I had to filter the remarks. I completely removed that remark from the Juneteenth video because that is not funny. There are a lot of historical reasons for that being the case. One is slavery. We're not going to really get into that, but one thing I say that this film came out not only the day before Father's Day, but also Juneteenth, and it was very significant for that reason because you knew people were going to make that kind of joke. You knew people were gonna, if they weren't gonna go to the fried chicken and watermelon or the crime rates or the so-called IQ accounts, they were gonna go to the fatherless rates because that's just something that trolls do on the internet. Trolls will say shit like that using the anonymity of the internet. So this movie kind of was a Juneteenth as well as a Father's Day movie because this is an all black cast. There's no white person. Well, the one white guy, his friend, but other than that, it's an all black cast, and it's an all black cast that's painting fatherhood in a very positive, black fatherhood in a very positive light. That I appreciate it because in a lot of movies, even though we talked about how fatherhood is painted in a positive light in a lot of movies, when it comes to all black movies or African American cinema, fatherhood is often painted just like it is in the media in a negative light as absentee fathers. Oh, rappers always talking about they didn't know who their father was, like Tupac or whatever. But in actuality, Tupac actually he didn't grow up with his father, but he grew up with father figures in his life, and he later became and established his relationship with his father. And actually, when he wrote the song "Dear Mama," his father wasn't dead. You know what I mean? So when he said that line that his father died, how could his anger let him feel for a stranger? That was complete bullshit. You know what I mean? Like complete rapper embellishment because he hadn't known his father yet. And before he had passed away, he and his father established a relationship. So a lot of media, a lot of music, especially, and African American and people of color centered media does perpetuate that myth. So somebody that would make some kind of racist joke like that, it would lend itself to that. But this movie doesn't. This movie portrays black fatherhood in a positive light on Juneteenth. The day it came out and the day before Father's Day. It also corresponds to Pride Month. With the nonconformist of the dress, of the dressing. So it kind of hits really in all 3 points. I mean, Kevin Hart in the movie is a very successful software management consultant. He's not a gangbanger. He's not a thug. He's not a rapper. He's not. He's none of that. He's your average middle class African American father who, yeah, he has some bumps along the road in terms of, he's growing to mature alongside his daughter, but he is ultimately a good father, not like the media portrays a lot of times with African American fathers, because although that is a theme in in movies that fathers often fare better than their mothers, like I said, in um, black center media, African American center media, that is not often the case. One of the exceptions probably will be Boys in the Hood or the father from the Wayans brothers. So um, this is a good portrayal and a more accurate portrayal to actually what it is in real life. People think, you know, that the hood or rap songs are really the real accurate depictions of how life is in general for people. But in general, people do have dads, or people don't. If they don't have their actual biological fathers, they have stepdads. They have other people in their life that positively motivate them. You know, people are not growing up like rap portrays. Like, oh, they're growing up with idolizing a drug dealer, a neighborhood drug dealer or whatever, as their father. People, they don't have dads, they have uncles, they have grandpas. They have people. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, I wasn't saying there was anything wrong with the dad on the Waynes, but I said it's one of the positive portrayals. Like in Boys in the Hood, there are some positive portrayals, but oftentimes the media, you know how they do, at least a sleight of hand. They'll say some slick shit like the person in the comments said that I had to remove, and they'll do it by portraying the character as a thug or a bad father. Hell, on the first black sitcom, Good Times, that was one of the guy was one of the best fathers ever. Fresh Prince, one of the best fathers ever. But in a lot of these movies, they will show like, oh, the guy didn't grow up with his dad. He doesn't know his father. Or in a lot of these songs, oh, I didn't know my dad. People be like, oh, well, fuck my dad. In a lot of, especially music, not so much in the movies, but a lot of times in the urban subgenre of movies, they will like, oh, fuck my dad. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know him like that. You know what I mean? Like, and portray him like portray the father as a dog or the father as like a thug or some bullshit like that, like single mom struggle hood and shit. And it was nice to see. It was nice to see a serious tone type movie where an African American father um, was taken seriously. You know, something you don't really see. And he's the father of a girl, and he doesn't push an agenda on the little girl neither. Like, oh, she needs to wear dresses, she needs to do this, and she needs to do that. He is he's your typical normal dad, and race doesn't even factor in, except for the fact that you might see, well, he's a guy that happens to be African American. It's an all black cast, and it came out on Juneteenth. But other than that, I can't really stand those types of films that you know somebody like just like that's what made Black Panther so different. Yeah, I do. So I recommend people see this movie. What made Black Panther so different that people loved, and this kind of goes along with it too. It's an all black cast film, an African American film, and it's not a hood movie. It's not somebody's a thug, somebody's a drug dealer, somebody's a crackhead, somebody's this and that. You know, Positivity. Yes, there's a place for those types of films in black media, but there is a place for other types of films. You gotta have a balance. So, because for every Goodfellas movie that Ray Liotta does, there is a Karina that Ray Liotta does. you know what I'm saying? For every time that Al Pacino plays Scarface, there's other movies with Al Pacino that Al Pacino, the other Caucasian films where Al Pacino doesn't play that. So there's a room for negativity and there's a room for positivity, but oftentimes you see a lot of negativity, in this type of subgenre of area. So overall, they portray fathers in a positive light, but when it comes to fathers of color, they often portray them in a negative light or not even there at all. You know what I mean? And that would lend itself to the that exactly, and that would lend itself. Lisa says we need more positive black movies, no gang type movies or slavery movies. Exactly, that would lend itself to the kind of joke that the offensive joke that the person made on the Juneteenth comment that I had to remove because probably this person is a troll, and yeah, you shouldn't feed a troll. You shouldn't worry about what a troll has to say because they're a troll in general. But they're probably gonna say this because this is what they see in the media. Because I'm pretty sure these racist trolls don't interact on a daily basis with black folks. You know what I mean? They see it on movies and shit, so they think that that's real. No, that there's not. Hispanic movies, same thing. These are like uh, black movies. Everybody is in a gang, or everybody is a maid, or everybody is, a negative type person, a drug dealer, or some bullshit like that. In the Heights, yeah, it's a positive Hispanic movie, but about fatherhood, nah. You know, you have this stereotype in Hispanic movies too, where the father is a dummy. You know what I mean? Like he's from another country. He's from immigrant. He's from an immigrant background, and the son is like usually it's with the son. The son is like in a gang, and he's more acculturated to American culture. So what does he do? He says the line, "Mijo, I didn't come to this country for for you to be in a gang." And then the son storms out of the room. You know, you know what I mean? Like it's seen in uh, Mi Vida Loca, that old 80s gang movie, Cholo movie. And again, those kind of hood movies, there's a place for them, but there is a place too for in Hispanic movies and for African American movies that people are just normal. People are just normal fathers, normal people. You know what I mean? Not gangsters, not drug dealers, not pimps, not immigrants out of touch with reality, or even superheroes. Like no superhero stuff, no gang stuff, no slavery stuff, no oppression type movies. There's a place for that, but there is a place also for just regular people, you know, regular people as regular families, especially fathers. But of course, in the Hispanic community, just like in the African American community, while while in the Hispanic community the father is there a lot, he's often there. He's not completely absent from the scene, but he's seen in a lot of Hispanic media as he's out of touch. He's an immigrant. He's strict, so he doesn't know really what's going on. Like, and he's portrayed in a really negative light, or he's some kind of big drug dealer type that is manipulating his sons to be also drug dealers. You know that's a one that I seen in a lot of Hispanic media too. Again, negative stereotyping. Ugly Betty is probably the only example of a really good father on television that's Hispanic, and George Lopez, of course. But again, one is an immigrant out of touch, and George Lopez. Okay, the family dynamic was there, but the show was completely centered on George Lopez. Nothing about fatherhood really. Like you could have took all the kids out of Lopez show, and it would have just been all about him. It was really the Hispanic version of the Bill Cosby show. Like the Bill Cosby show was all about Bill Cosby. Like the kids, they came and they went, but the centerpiece of the show was Bill Cosby, not the relationship necessarily between Bill Cosby and the kids. And it was the same thing in the George Lopez show. And so Lisa is absolutely right. There's no Hispanic father type movies. The father type movies that are the really good ones, other than this one, are all white movies. Karina, Mrs. Doubtfire, Curly Sue, all the Disney movies. Um, uh, Again, besides Boys in the Hood, uh, in an ironic way, okay, yeah, it's a gangster movie, but in an ironic way, Godfather of Harlem is kind of a father-ish type film. Yeah, and like, yeah, he's a gangster, but he's also a family man, a family man. So it's kind of Tony Soprano ish. I don't know. It's going way off topic about this film on Netflix. But anyway, watch this Kevin Hart film. It's a really good film. Again, dropped Juneteenth and dropped on the Father's Day, the day before Father's Day. So It's a really good film. Watch this film. I recommend it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you, Lisa, again for contributing. Peace. Hit the bell button to see when the next video is coming out. I'm gonna probably do a video later today on this video link that Lisa sent me about Paris Jackson. There's an example, Paris Jackson, of the special bond that I was talking about between father and daughter, Michael Jackson and Paris. And she does a red table talk interview with Willow Smith. And Willow Smith, of course, Will Smith, one of the best fathers in Hollywood, along with Michael Jackson. These are two of the most famous um, girl dad guys and daddy's girls, that you will ever really see, Paris Jackson and Willow Smith. So anyway, peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell button. Later.